Hello and welcome back to my Dandelion Diaries. It is officially getting towards the end of September, and that means it's time to do a progress report for all of the pens that I had inked for this month. I had 8 pens this month instead of my normal 7, and I have to tell you now before we get started, this is the hardest to choose what would be number 1 and what would be last, because I loved writing with all of these so much. This is the entire collection of Esties that I have, Esterbrook Esties, and ranking them from best to worst in a way is really challenging for me. So we're just gonna kind of rank them in order of which ones I used the most, I guess. I really did love writing with all of them, but let's go ahead and just jump right in and get started with my number 1. So I'm going to be doing 1 through 8, 1 being the best, 8 being the worst, even though none of these were really the worst. So let's just jump right into this. So starting with the first pen I had inked, this is the Ferris Wheel Press brush fountain pen in Majestic Maple. It is a gorgeous slim satin body, and I had this inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Hana Akita. And this one is my 7 out of 8. Overall, this one was really nice in terms of color. I absolutely love Hana Akita. It's this gorgeous cherry blossom light pink. And I don't usually gravitate towards lighter colors, but this one has some really nice shading, so it's very legible. And since this is even a medium nib, I can still read this just fine. Obviously, probably not from far away, but up close, I can read it just fine. It did end up being my 7 out of 8 because, as you probably saw as I wrote, the nib skips. And I don't know if it's just this ink. This is the first time I have inked up this pen. It just was kind of annoying having to kind of go back and fill in places that it had skipped. And I do write kind of fast when I'm journaling, so maybe that was part of it too, is that I just wasn't writing slow enough to let the ink lay down, but it was kind of annoying. I'm not gonna lie. So that's why it's kind of at the bottom for this one. Next, we had my very first Estie I ever got, and this is the Esterbrook Estie in Tortoise, and this has a fine nib. And I ranked this one as my 5 out of 8. This Estie was inked with Ackerman SBRE Brown, which is my most pride and joy brown of the moment. And I specifically wanted to put that brown in this pen, and I am so happy that I did. It is probably my favorite combination of browns I've used in this Estie. I really did love this. It's still my favorite nib as an Estie. A fine is just, it's like the perfect in between a fine and a medium for me. I had to put this one kind of like in the middle because I just didn't write with it as much as the others, which is weird because I love writing with brown ink, and I don't know. I did a lot of spreads with this pen, and I actually think I showed a lot of it on my Instagram, but it has to get in the middle because I used others more, and I'm trying to be fair even though I really did love writing with all of these pens. Next, we had my Platinum 3776 with a soft fine, I think it's 14 karat gold nib. And this was inked with Diatramentis Violets. And this one is my 2 out of 10. This was such a fun writer. The purple was spot on for purple that I was going for. It worked so beautifully in this gold nibbed pen. And honestly, the weight of the Platinum 376 was so light in hand, I never got tired of writing with it. I actually almost wrote this completely dry and had to stop using it so I would have enough ink left for this report, because I didn't have any more in my sample that I had pulled from. And I really did love it. It was such a fun writer. It was almost number 1, but I had to give it to another pen. And I don't know, this one was just really nice, and I would definitely ink this up again. It was a good combo. Next, we had my Pilot Vanishing Point Decimo in Pearl White, and this one was inked with Diamine Memory Lane minus the shimmer. I didn't uptake the shimmer for this one. This was hands down my number 1 writer. I wrote with this almost every single day. I think I just have a really big fondness for the gold nib in this Vanishing Point. It is an 18 karat gold nib, and I mean, usually I don't care if it's gold nib or steel nib. I rank them very evenly, and there was something about the gold nibs in this batch that I had. They just surpassed everything else in terms of fondness with writing. And I do think it's funny that both of my top two are purple inks as well, because I usually write with green and brown first and then purple third. But I really did enjoy this one. I did not uptake the shimmer in the ink, like I said, so it was just the flat memory lane color, and it is so unique. It has beautiful almost gray purple shading to it. I really enjoyed this one. It was a really nice writing experience, and I would definitely re-ink this again. And honestly, kind of want to put more of the Diamine Inkvent colors into my Vanishing point now, just to see what they look like. Next, we had another Estie. This is my Esterbrook Estie in Evergreen with the gold trim, and this one has the custom journaler nib. And I had this one inked with another Inkvent from Diamine, and this one was in the color Ghost. And I was really happy with this color, honestly. It has beautiful shading to it, and the journaler nib showcased that shading very well, especially in larger pages. The reason it's kind of at, I guess, the bottom of the pack is because I just didn't write with it as much. I didn't reach for the pen as much as the other ones that I had inked this month. I did enjoy writing with it when I did write with it. I just didn't reach for it as often as the others. And that's okay. That's, I guess, why it's kind of towards the bottom. I still love this combination. I love this ink color. I love this nib. I love this pen. It has to be towards the bottom because the other ones I wrote with more. That's literally the only reason. Next, we had my third Estie I had inked up for this month, and this is in the Seaglass colorway with the gold trim, and it has an extra fine nib, and it was inked with Sailor Mano Nadeshiko. This one was my 3 out of 10. I loved writing with this pen. I love this color so much. I didn't realize how much I would like this color until I wrote a lot with it. I usually don't gravitate towards the lighter colors, like I said, but this one was so stunning. And I really wanted to test it out to see if the extra fine nib could pick up the chroma shading in the Nadeshiko. And I feel like it really did. It did a great job. Obviously, it's not as vibrant as it would be in like a medium or a broad nibbed pen, but I was so happy with this. And I wrote with it so much. Again, I almost wrote this pen dry. I wanted to wait though, because I only have a little bit of Nadeshiko left and I'm trying to save it for one of my ink explorations. And I want to get a bottle of this, but at the same time, it is such a unique color. I don't know. But yeah, I loved writing with this pen. It was so fantastic. It was just such a wonderful experience. I also want to say that I got a question on my Instagram about the extra fine Esterbrook nib being as fine as a Japanese nib. I don't think it's as fine as a Japanese extra fine or a Japanese fine, but it is a very fine writer. I think it would work well if you needed to take quick notes, but it is probably thicker than a Japanese fine. The second to last pen I had inked up for September is just a TWISBI Eco, and this is in the Persian green colorway, and I had this inked with the Jacques Herbin Bleu de, I think it's Profondeurs. Yeah, my French is terrible. Anyways, this one was a pleasant writing experience as well. So this TWISBI has an extra fine nib, and I honestly think it is my favorite TWISBI size nib ever now. I've had a TWISBI fine as well, and I think it's just a little too bold, but it works really well for drier inks. I will say the coloring of this dark blue ink is really nice. It is almost black blue, and I really like that about it. It made everything kind of pull together, but stay not super like cold dark. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was really nice. I also really liked taking this pen with me on the go. So I had been doing some morning page journaling outside in my garden, and I wasn't afraid to take this pen with me if it were to like fall in the dirt per se, because usually TWISBI Ecos are fairly inexpensive in terms of starting out fountain pens. And I also may have a slight bias because I started with a TWISBI as my first like ink fountain pen, like one that didn't require a cartridge, and I fell in love with them after that point. So I really did like this pen. It gets the middle of the pack because I wrote with it a lot, but there was a few other ones that I wrote with more and I liked them a little bit better. But I still really love this TWISBI, and I would definitely write with them probably until it breaks, which is what has happened to one of my other TWISBI pens. And the last pen I had inked for September is the final Estie, and this is in the Rainforest colorway with a medium nib. So if you're a regular viewer on my channel, you were probably shocked that I put the green Estie with the green ink at the bottom of the pack for this month. And I'm sad because I love this pen. I love this ink. It has gorgeous dark green shading. It has a beautiful green color to the pen. Like, it was a good match, and I was so sad because when I first started writing with it, it wouldn't write. I had to do so much work to get this to start every time I would try to write with it. I think had it happen on one of my Plan With Me videos where I was trying to write with a pen and it just would not start writing. I prepped it, I primed it, I did everything I could think of without opening up the pen completely to wash it again and get it to write. Eventually, I did take a brush and kind of brush through the tines after I washed the nib, and it started to flow just fine. So I don't know if there was just like a piece of the manufacturing desk that was really stuck in it or something, but I struggled with this pen in the beginning, and I was so sad because this was probably my favorite color combo in terms of matching pen to ink, and it was just so disappointing that I had to struggle with it so much in the beginning. So that is the only reason it's at the bottom. I think I have since fixed the pen and it will be perfectly fine now, but I just was really bummed, and that's why it's the last on the list. Alrighty, so that is my ink progress report for September. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think I ranked them fairly? I had a lot of Esties in this collection, and it was really tough to kind of pick between the nib sizes. I would definitely say my favorite Estie nib is definitely going to be the fine. It just writes perfectly in the middle of a medium and an extra fine for me. As for colors, I seriously think that the Diamine Memory Lane is one of my favorites. It's neutral but purple at the same time. And then, man, that 𝗦𝘂𝗽𝗁 just, it got me. It was so pretty to write with. Again, if you're interested in any of the other ink progress reports or currently inked videos that I have done, I will leave a playlist down in the description and also put it up in the cards for you guys. And feel free to check out some of my ink explorations and ink swatching videos. I have a lot of fun swatching circular swatches of my inks and try to put them into different color families, and I don't know, they're really fun to do, so go ahead and check those out too. But for now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and for joining me today on my ink progress report, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.